Tuesday Cafe. I'm Sean Canan, and we are broadcasting live on December 10th from the studios of WMNF in Tampa. Chances for a new stadium for the Tampa Bay Rays improved last week when the St. Petersburg City Council voted to approve the bonds that were needed to pay for the $1.3 billion ballpark. This hour, we're going to hear that discussion by the mayor and St. Pete City Council that happened right before their 4-3 vote to approve the bonds. But that's only part of the deal. The Pinellas County Commission also must choose whether to approve its share of the financing. The county has been much more critical of the deal. And if the county commission votes no next Tuesday, that could leave funding for the project more than $300 million short. The Rays will play this season at Steinbrenner Field in Tampa. And when I say this season, I'm talking about the upcoming 2025 season. And that's because of hurricane damage to the Tropicana Field. St. Pete estimates that it will cost the city about $55 million to fix the Trop. The Rays sent a letter a few weeks ago that suggested that the project was already in danger because of cost overruns. But then in a second letter, they said they were committed to the new stadium. And I'd like to know what you think about this issue and how you think it'll play out. What do you think about the arguments that are going to be put forward that you'll hear today by each of these St. Pete City Council members? And what should the Pinellas County Commission do? I'm going to take calls later on in the show, but anytime during the show, you can email or text your thoughts. Here's the text number, 813-433-0885. You can also email DJ at WMNF.org. There was public comment that happened before this discussion last Thursday, and we're going to hear part of that later on. But first, let's hear this short statement from St. Pete Mayor Ken Welch.
I am doing well, Madam Chair, council members of the community. Thank you all for being here. Before I turn it over to Tom and Ann, I just wanted to give you just a real quick update, Madam Chair. Since your last meeting on November 21st, we've continued our discussions with all of our partners, including the County Commission, the Hines Group, and the Rays Group, including a meeting with owner Stu Sturberg and his leadership team, along with myself and our leadership team here at City Hall on Tuesday. I want to let you know that there is consensus that the agreements that you all approved in July is valid and in effect, using the wording from the Rays. And while significant issues do remain with regard to the Rays stadium obligations, the discussions were productive and our options are becoming clearer. What has not changed is our belief that the best path forward and the path that best positions the city for any future decision by the Rays is to move forward with these bond resolutions so that we are prepared to fulfill our obligations as a partner in this development. With that, Madam Chair and Council, I want to thank you for considering this item today and certainly respectfully ask for your approval of these bonds. Approval.
Second.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Well, that was St. Petersburg Mayor Ken Welch speaking last Thursday before a discussion and vote on approving bonds to pay for a new baseball stadium for the Tampa Bay Rays. As I mentioned, there was public comment as well. We're going to hear some of that later. But let's hear the discussion right now with city council members, and we'll hear what they're going to say about the deal before their vote. We're going to hear from Gina Driscoll. We'll also hear from Lisette Hanowitz, who is a stadium critic and was on this show a couple of weeks ago. We'll hear from City Administrator Rob Gertis, who is an architect of the deal that got approved. And we're going to hear from John Mohammed, who previously, and spoiler alert, this time as well, voted against the stadium. We're going to hear from Brandy Gabbard, a supporter of the stadium. We'll hear from Ann Fritz, who is the city's debt financing director, and Deborah Figgs-Sanders, who is a council member who supports the deal. And also we'll hear from Richie Floyd, who's a critic of the deal. So we're going to hear a range of voices in the next 20 minutes or so. And I kind of want to hear which one you find the most convincing. What are some of the arguments that you feel are convincing you, and what do you think should happen with this deal? Again, this is Tuesday Cafe. I'm Sean Canan, and we're broadcasting from the studios of WMNF Tampa. So here is the St. Petersburg City Council members speaking last Thursday before their vote to support paying for bonds or getting bonds, that is, to pay for the new Rays Stadium. We're going to start out here with St. Petersburg City Council member Gina Driscoll.
Thank you, and thanks to all who took the time to come and speak today, as well as those who have emailed, stopped me at Publix, and yelled at me during the Santa parade. You got that too? Yeah, okay. It was positive, and that matters. I mean, we've been listening for the last couple of weeks, just like we have been since this project was first announced, and we started working through the details. The details of the project, the terms of the agreement are not what we are deciding today. That's already been decided. Today it's about the funding. And we did commit when we agreed to the terms of the agreement that we would do our part to provide this chunk of the funding. So that's not what we're trying to figure out at this point. At our last meeting, I asked that we take a step back because things had gotten really heated, back and forth between the Rays and the county, and there was a moment of uncertainty. And I'm sure that many of you in the audience have faced really big decisions before and gotten right up to the edge and felt a little bit of uncertainty and thought maybe you needed to stop and just take a breath. And that's what I asked us to do at the last meeting. I feel pretty satisfied with what has happened since then. We wanted to find out, were the Rays on the verge of sending a termination letter? Turns out that they weren't. They're still in. And so am I. Vice Chair Gertis at the last meeting spoke about the city leading on this. And by taking this vote today, we have an opportunity to do that. And so I look forward to doing my part on this. And today I urge the county to next do their part and join us to see this through. And to Michelle, I am very sorry for all that you have gone through during this time. And you have really shown us that the type of community that the Tampa Bay Rays has created in our area, it's not just outside of the walls of the stadium or inside the ballpark, but it's within the team of employees that make it all happen for us every time we go to catch a game. And I'm certain that once we move forward, and I'm confident that we will, that you are going to continue to be part of the great tradition that is baseball in St. Petersburg.
That's St. Pete City Council member Gina Driscoll, and she was talking right there about an employee at the Trop who has lost her job because of the damage.
I know that we are probably not at the end of a little bit of a bumpy path, but we are buckled in and ready to go. Thank you.
Again, St. Pete City Council member Gina Driscoll. Next, we hear from Lisette Hanowitz.
Thank you, Chair. Well, the Rays aren't here. We are about to approve, because I can count the votes, hundreds of millions of dollars, and they don't even show up. Don't know why. Based on our last meeting, there were conversations about termination letter. Are there still ongoing conversations, Rob, regarding a termination letter with the Rays?
She's asking City Administrator Rob
I would say
Curtis.
the conversation this week didn't focus on that. It focused more on the funding gap that they perceive, and how we might be able to assist with that, and folks like the Chamber of Commerce could assist with that, with looking at our partners for maybe sleeve sponsorship rights or naming sponsorship rights, or maybe other ways in the private sector that they can work on this gap, and that's what the discussions have focused on recently.
What is their funding gap?
The specific exact number I don't have.
So, I mean, what I'm gathering is obviously there's no indication that the Rays have changed their position since the last meeting. They still have the gap. They have clearly defined where they see this deal based on that gap in funding. and have been consistent in their position since their first letter to the county commission, where they state that the ability for delivery of a 2028 ballpark has ended and they cannot absorb any more costs, which, by the way, was a material term of the agreement. That was material. And then we have the latest letter that they sent the county commissioners, which was sent November 29th. And if you read through the letter, their comments throughout the letter, they first start off with disputing a conversation with the county commissioner. The next paragraph talks about inaccurate comments made and how they clarify all that. The third paragraph talks about how, when it comes to honoring the spirit of the new ballpark agreements, it is Pinellas County and not the Rays that fall short. So it's everyone else's fault. Mind you, that there is nothing in the agreement that's written that required them to have the vote then, and nothing that requires any of us to approve bonds. Why? Because you can't do that. You cannot bind a future city council or a county commission. You just can't. You can't do that, and you can't bind any boards. And they know that, and everybody should know that. And they entered the agreement knowing that. So none of this is shocking.
That's St. Pete City Council member Lisette Hanowitz.
It wasn't a simple administrative action that they were seeking with approval of bonds. This is not a simple administrative action. They were looking for a penalty provision when they were negotiating to make sure that somehow, if it didn't go their way, they can get money. And the penalty applied. If it was a simple administrative action, that wouldn't happen. And then they go on in their letter talking about, as a technical matter, there are longer outside dates in the agreement. Well, not a technical matter. They're actually in the agreement. But then they go on to say they have made it clear that the viability of the project depended on having certainty about the project's approval and funding prior to the 2024 November elections. Well, you know how they can make it clear? They could have had it in the contract. They just didn't. That's not in the contract. So all this stuff, it would be helpful if they had it in the contract. They don't. They say in their letter that they have fulfilled their obligations. I haven't seen any evidence that they have fulfilled their obligations. Very conclusory. So when partners are communicating via letters, such as the ones that we have seen, it's not an indication of a good partnership. When our partners are not here, it's not an indication of a good relationship. There's no commitment to move forward. There's no clarity as to what will happen with all the agreements between the parties. And this is how a 30-year relationship is supposedly beginning. This is how we're starting. They have asserted that they do not have the financial capacity to execute the terms of the agreement. This is before anything's built. This is from the get-go. They don't have the financial capacity. It would have helped if we would have had financial statements so we can verify this, but we don't. We haven't even gotten to the building stage. They are supposed to stand behind their commitments to pay for cost overages, including due to unforeseen circumstances. And they said that they're not. This is all due to the Rays. This started with a letter from the Rays, not the county, not the city. It started with their letter saying this. There is no requirement to approve bonds. I don't want to go and repeat all the things I said at the last meeting, but look, they can terminate whenever they want to terminate the agreement. It's not clear how this is going to work out, but the fact that there is no clarity, I just cannot see how we can approve hundreds of millions of dollars on bonds when we see that they're not even here, and these are the letters that they're sending out to partners. And if it's the county now, it's the city later. We're not far behind. Thank you.
Sheriff, if I could, just for the record, just
this is City Administrator
so people
Rob
know,
Curtis.
and you know, for the sake of people's reputations, the Rays did offer to come today. I told them that I didn't think it was necessary, that the mayor and I and Tom could answer questions. And so I just want the public to know that.
Well, and to Rob, I actually spoke to them yesterday, and I asked Matt Silverman whether or not he was coming, and he wasn't sure. And he told me that he would get back to me after they made a decision, and they decided not to. So that was based on my conversation yesterday. So, but I did ask them.
That was St. Pete.
Councilmember Muhammad.
That was St. Pete City Council Member Lisette Hanowitz. This is John Muhammad, another St. Pete City Council member.
Councilmember Hanowitz really lifted up a lot of the things that I had as thoughts about this as well. I love the framing of the position and where we are that was given by Ash, I think, Alonza, the woman who talked about the bad relationship dynamics that we're in. And I think it's absolutely on point and spot on. And then as a girl dad, it just kind of started running in my mind like, oh yeah, I was trying to tell you about this partnership when I first met this guy, right? But now we're here to the point about not litigating the contract, rehashing the contract, understanding where we are. But the fear that we would be somewhere like this was part of the reason why I didn't support that contract in the first place, but it's here. So they're responsible for cost overruns, and they're saying that they can't do it alone. In your conversations with them, Rob, what exactly does that mean? Like when they say they can't do that alone, what are they saying?
Yeah, I think that maybe there's been some semantics and some mixed messages, along the way, but I think the gist of what they've been trying to say is that they've experienced cost increases, that is higher than what they had originally planned for their portion of the stadium, and they're looking for ways to fill that gap. Like I said before, we're willing to try and work with private partners, try and make introductions to help them, but as the mayor clearly stated, we cannot financially make up that gap for them. So
right, and that was one of the selling points, right? It was presented like this is a great thing. We're not responsible for cost overruns. All of that's on them. And before the courtship's even over, before we start to make payments for the wedding, they're saying we can't do it. But then that's contractual, right? But then they're saying the contract still applies. Is that what we mean when we say there's a lack of clarity? No, I don't think so. But what do we mean when we say there's a lack of clarity?
I think that there's a definition of cost overruns in the agreement. I think the definition in the agreement is extremely clear about what a cost overrun is. They can certainly read that and understand that. When I was talking about semantics and mixed messages, the deal's dead. Well, the deal's dead in 28, maybe not 29. There could be some other alternative funding sources that might make this work. So that's what I was referencing.
Okay. And then I made a statement last time we met, and you emphatically said it was not true. Is that still the case?
Yes, I think the point that you made was you said something to the effect of this was bass-ackwards about dealing with the roof repair. And you indicated that we had not had conversations with the Rays about the roof repair prior to the meetings, and I stated that was factually incorrect.
Okay, thank you for that. And another topic, not on this particular topic, about the roof repairs, but thank you for that. The last question that I have is, would Stadium Co. or Stadco, would they qualify for a lot under the Affordable Lot Disposition Program as amended this afternoon?
Stadco, I would have to research that. I don't believe Stadco would. I think the Heinz Rays development, Heinz could potentially qualify, to build an affordable home, just like any other developer might build an affordable home.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think it's kind of clear. Then the other thing too, I just wanted to say that it came up again the last conversation that we were having, that some of us who didn't support the original agreement, it was almost like a foregone conclusion that we would not be supporting, or I, since I speak for myself, as one of those who were a no vote, would automatically vote against anything related to this deal, and I just wanted to say it publicly that that's not the case. I supported and defended the mitigation efforts and those types of contractual obligations, but where we are right now is just unfortunate because, in my opinion, I think it's showing us how bad this deal is for the city, how our hands are being forced and we're being pushed into these positions based upon what's in the agreement. And I continue to have that position, and it's just unfortunate that we're here, but we are, and I don't want to pay for a wedding at this time. So thank you, Madam Chair.
That's
Councilmember Gabbard.
That was John
Thank you, Madam
Mohammed, St.
Chair.
Pete City Council member. This is Brandy Gabbard.
I just want to, because it's been brought up by members of the public, legal, is there any concern about the fact that this came onto adds and deletes so quickly and the public feels as though they were blindsided by that? Is there any legal concerns about that?
Not
part of our process.
Not from a legal standpoint, no.
Okay, and we have before done these things with other items that are not public hearing items. So there's a precedent that has been set for there are times that this has to happen, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure, I just wanted that to be very clear, that we are not in any sort of violation of our policies and procedures. I think that's very clear because there is so much doubt and confusion around this. I did not want the doubt and confusion to continue over our process. So I'm just going to be real clear. It's not a surprise. I voted in favor of the agreement. I thought it was a good deal for our city then for the numerous reasons that we hashed out in committee meetings and negotiations and behind the scenes. And I don't think that changes because of a hurricane. And I know there was a lot said that, you know, we can't rebuild our city and move forward with this development hand in hand. And I just think that that is a very short-sighted way of looking at the future of our city. And, you know, the district that I represent was highly affected by the hurricane, yet I have not had one resident, when I am out in the community working with those residents, say to me, help me with resources here, but don't build a stadium over here. I'm not hearing that. In fact, last night at community meetings, I heard people saying to me, are you still going to build the stadium? Do you think there's a chance to still build the stadium and still redevelop the gas plant? People are looking for hope. And I heard the word vision. People are looking for that in our city right now. And we can walk and chew gum at the same time. Yes, resources are limited, but that should not change the fact that we have a city that is on the cusp of greatness when it comes to how we move forward, and this development is a piece of that. Now, what happened at our last meeting, I wanted us to go ahead and vote then. Vote it yes, vote it no, just vote, because what is the purpose in continuing to delay this? Continuing to delay. It doesn't get us anywhere closer to resolution. We have a lot of questions about what's going to happen. What's going to happen with the county? What's going to happen with the Rays? Well, we're never going to know if we don't know what happens with the money that we need to commit. I'm ready today, and like I said, it's no shock to anybody who knows my position on this, but we need to move this forward because, quite frankly, I think we're calling their bluff by doing so. We put it out there. We're in. We're a partner in this. Hopefully the county will follow suit, and then it'll be up to the Rays to decide. It'll be up to them to decide. It'll be up to them to go back to their partners, go back and find other funding. And then when they can't perform, it'll be up to them to come back and say they can't. So I am very glad that this came back today. Thank you, Mayor, for bringing it back. Thank you for the one-on-one that we had. And to, you know, the point of where are the Rays? Quite frankly, I told the Mayor in my conversation with him, I didn't want to see the Rays here today. The spectacle of it all, I feel like is unnecessary. We have business to do, and the business to do today is to approve the bonds, move this forward, and do what we said we were going to do. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Well, that was Brandy Gabbard, who's a St. Pete City Council member, and we're going to hear more from Richie Floyd and Deborah Figgs-Sanders, other St. Pete City Council members, in just a moment. But I do want to break in to remind you that you're listening to Tuesday Cafe. I'm Sean Canan. We're broadcasting from the studios of WMNF Tampa. We're live on the 10th of December. And if you'd like to get into the queue, you can call in right now, 813-239-9663. If you have something to say about this, if you feel that one of these arguments is more or less convincing than another, why don't you let us know what you think about it? 813-239-9663. You can also text us at 813-433-0885. You can email dj@wmnf.org. If you text, please include your name and the city where you are. We got a text from 727 who says the Rays Stadium roof was 10 years overdue for repairs. Why wasn't it ever taken care of and maintenance done in a timely manner? So that's a question that 727 asks. CP from Palmetto says, I think the city and county commissioners who think the city can do better, big definition of better, without the Rays are delusional. And CP goes on to say, how many contemporary cities have national sports team? And how many are seeking the Rays if the county says no? Hint, a whole bunch. He wants the city and county to get moving or move on and stop looking stupid. He says, let the Rays go or man up. So that's the comments from CP in Palmetto. Well, let's hear more of last Thursday's city council discussion about, we're going to hear from two more city council members before the vote to approve the bonds financing for the Rays Stadium. We're going to hear in a second from Deborah Figgs Sanders, and first we're going to hear from Richie Floyd, who has been a vocal critic of the city spending money to pay for a Rays Stadium. This is Tuesday Cafe.
Thank you. Councilmember Floyd.
Thank you. I'm not going to get in the weeds. We've talked about this enough. I'm just going to briefly state the same opinions that I've had this whole time for the public and for everyone here listening. City shouldn't give $500 million over 30 years to subsidize a corporation. We're going to lose money on this project over 30 years. If you want to argue or speculate about what happens after that, that's sure, go ahead. But then, over 30 years, the money coming in is not going to equal the money going out. And we can create more jobs, do a better economic development, and create better quality of life for our residents by protecting our public wealth and not giving it to corporations. I'll stop there and I'll say that I really do appreciate the administration's process recently. I know this has been something tricky to deal with. I really appreciate you, Mayor, saying last meeting that you're not going to give them any more and looking at them and telling them to honor their agreement. That meant a lot to me. Just because I disagree doesn't mean I can't acknowledge where y'all are coming from. I hope that remains the case. I'll be upset if it doesn't. Administrator Gertis, you said you talked to them about helping them overcome their perceived funding gap. Love the word perceived there. What I'll say is like what I hope that I heard that you're talking about, go find it in the private sector, don't come ask for us for it. And that includes, like, I don't want to hear, oh, the city's buying the naming rights to the stadium we paid. I don't want to hear anything like that. I'm just putting that out there. I think that's what I heard from you. And okay, all right. So I appreciate it, but this is not what I said I was going to do when I ran for office. This is not what my MO is. This is not how I believe economic development should take place. I understand there's a different view to that, but I'm where I'm at and where I've always been and where I'll always be. So thank you.
Thank you.
This is Deborah Figgs Sanders.
It's been motioned and we have a second, but I am going to close out with a statement or two. And it's no secret. Everyone knows I'm an NBA fan. And it wasn't the Rays that was my advocacy for this particular deal. And I've had the conversation, and when I was asked, could we add this to the agenda? My stance was, as long as we are adding this to the agenda to discuss the bonds that we originally agreed to move forward with. Now, when someone stands before me and says the development deal is dead, unless we are having a Lazarus moment, sound like to me it was dead, right? And so to have it come back put me in a different position in some of my thoughts. But what did not change was the commitment that the mayor's administration, that the council members that wanted to see this move forward, the things that are going to come with this. I have partnered with the Rays long before I was on the city council. And it wasn't just about baseball. I have children that learned about gardens. I have children that learned how to do archery, how to play chess. There are several of us in here that have problems with this deal, whose organizations have benefited from a whole lot of Rays generosity and donations. There's more to it for me than just baseball. And my whole concept of this is moving forward, acknowledging what it is. Talk about leverage. This is leverage. This is leverage. We're upholding our part of the bargain. This is what we're doing. We said we were going to do this. We're doing it. Now what you got? Where are you going with this? I couldn't agree with Mr. Kerry more about some of the pieces of this, but I've never shied away from that. I want us to not forget that everybody that left the gas plant didn't mind leaving. I do not want us to forget that so many of the gas plant ancestors, they supported this deal. Without this, we would lose the legacy garden that reminds us of all of those plots that are still under those parking lots. Let us not forget those people that are still buried there. Without this, yes, I'm going to say a museum. I want a museum that's in a prime area that celebrates the history and the heritage and the development of this city. Those are some things that we have worked so hard for so many years. And if nothing else, the events that we've had at the Trop that we've sold out, there's possibilities for revenue to be generated from this. So again, I appreciate everybody's feedback on this because we can't all think the same. We're not all going to feel the same. We're not all going to receive it the same. Because for me, it was the benefits. But for us moving forward with this, because I wanted to move forward with it last time as well, Councilmember Gabbard, because I wanted the city to be in the best place to say, we honored our deal. We did this. Now, what do you have? And I appreciate the mayor about no more money because they asked me about that too. And my thing was, now we're not coming up with anything else, are we? Because that's not in the plan. So again, I want us to make sure that we are steadfast with our commitment to this. But I see it so much more than just a baseball team. I see it so much more that we are going to. What really scared me was, you're right, those 60 acres and the benefits. And losing those that we have worked so many years for, so hard for. But I do appreciate everybody's perspective on this and all of the opinions on this. And I must admit, I'm like you, Councilmember Gabbard. Everywhere I go, people are like, what do you think? You think we're going to do it? You think we're going to get it? I've gotten more pros than I have cons, just to be transparent. And also to be transparent, when I was also asked as chair, I couldn't tell anybody not to come to a council meeting, and I wouldn't. And I wouldn't. Did I think it was relevant? Not with what we needed to discuss, because I did not want it to be a go back for back, go forward. I didn't want that to be the focus of the commitment that we've made as a council. So no, I wasn't going to tell anyone not to come. Couldn't do that and wouldn't do that. Because everybody has the opportunity, and they should have the opportunity to have their questions answered. So with that, we have been properly motioned, and it has been seconded. We're both voting on F6, A and B together. Clerk, can you please open the machine for voting? Now that all present council members have voted, can you please tally and announce the votes?
Madam Chair, motion to approve agenda item F6, A and B passes 4-3 with council members Floyd, Hanowitz, and Muhammad voting no. Council members Driscoll, Fix Sanders, Gabbard, and Gertis voting yes.
Well, that was the St. Pete City Council voting on Thursday to approve the bonds to finance the redevelopment of the historic gas plant district that includes a new $1.3 billion stadium for the Tampa Bay Rays. This is Tuesday Cafe. We're broadcasting from the studios of WMNF in Tampa, live on December 10th. I'm Sean Canan, and I'm asking what you think. You can give us a text at 813-433-0885. You can email dj@wmnf.org or phone in at 813-239-9663. I'm going to play some of the public comments so you get an idea of what the city council members were hearing from the public about this deal. There's arguments on both sides, so let's hear some of the people who were speaking in public at City Council before the vote last Thursday, and you can let us know which of the arguments that you agree with, either from the members of the public or by City Council members. Again, this is Tuesday Cafe. We're broadcasting from WMNF Tampa.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Peter Ken. I live at 8 Academy Way. I'm a retired Commissioner of Public Works and City Engineer. Florida Statute 120.525 requires all public agencies to publish notice of meetings on their website at least 7 days before the event, including a general description of the topics to be discussed. This 7-day requirement was violated yesterday when items F6, A, and B were added to the agenda to approve over $250 million in city CRA bonds. Discussion should be tabled until statutory notice is given. Emergency privilege does not count. The mayor and others are pushing to rush the vote before the new council members are sworn in. One of their claims is if the city doesn't approve these bonds, the Rays Heinz teens get control of 65 acres of prime city land worth about $1 billion, along with $142 million of city-paid infrastructure improvements, without anything down, possibly paying $105 million over 30 years. Section 3.6 of the Development Funding and Agreement between the City, County, and Rays outlines 6 events that result in automatic termination. In that section, 3.6 II was triggered by the Rays delivering notice to the county of Stadco intent to abandon the development when they wrote, "We suspended work on the entire project, both the ballpark and the historic gas plant," end quote. The second termination event, 3.6 III, was triggered when they wrote, quote, "2029 ballpark delivery would result in substantially higher costs that we are not able to absorb alone," end quote, which states that they cannot absorb the cost overruns as contractually required. The third termination event, 3.6 I, required Stadco to provide a fully executed credit agreement and was triggered when Rays wrote, quote, "costs that we're not able to absorb alone," end quote. The Rays have told you in writing the deal is dead 3 different ways in their November 19th letter. Passing the bond issue today would be irresponsible. Yesterday, I proposed a deal restoration in the Catalyst comments. It outlined how the city, county, and Rays can work together to renovate the existing statement with a pyramid-shaped roof over a window ring wall, very similar to the proposed new stadium, and save the taxpayers over $2 billion. These savings can be used to reduce the city's flooding caused by the city's inadequate infrastructure before the next big hurricane passes nearby, and to help build affordable housing citywide. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Hello, Mark Ferguson, 7937 9th Avenue South, St. Pete, Florida. I'm here to encourage you to pass the bonds for the stadium. I was so proud 30-some years ago when the city council decided to build the stadium. We had nothing going on in St. Pete. It got built. In the beginning, we had the Tampa Bay Storm playing there. We had some concerts. We were really nowhere. And then luckily we got the Tampa Bay Lightning for 3.5 years. That really saved my business and other businesses around us. After that, we got the Tampa Bay Rays to move in, which now we're a major league city. We have come so far in the last 30 years to be at this point where now we're looking at something totally different. You pass the bonds today, the county passes the bonds on the 17th, and we're back on track to make this 86 acres. Think about this, 86 acres the last 30-some years. There's been no property tax, a lot of property not being used. Now they're going to take over, build a stadium, and also build a entertainment center, offices, affordable housing, everything we need, create jobs. And the tax ramifications are unbelievable with property tax and also sales tax. So it's really a no-brainer. We just have to keep going forward. I appreciate everything you do for us. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Paul Carter. Live at 341 5th Street South in St. Pete. I'll apologize for my voice. Mark was a contributor to the Michigan-Ohio State game on Saturday, and I'm still trying to recover from that. We won, however. I've stood at this podium several times in the past to support many issues, but in particular the Rays-Hines agreement. And I'm here today to once more support another part of that agreement. That's the issuing of the bonds, the support for the bonding to finance the city's portion. We've been at this for a long, long time. I think it's about 17 years. I know we moved here in 2007. 2008, I believe, the Waterfront Stadium was proposed. I was an advocate for that and have been supporter ever since. So I'm here again today to support this particular issue in the long, long history of these discussions. I'm not going to make any arguments either for or against at this point. After those 17 years, I think those arguments are pretty clear. They're pretty well understood on both sides of the question. So all I am here today to do is to urge you to support the bonding, to get this project underway, and to do all the stuff that this will contribute to the city of St. Petersburg. I think as a council, you have the opportunity to really leave quite a substantial legacy, and voting yesterday, I think, will contribute to that. So, thank you.
My name is Chimaranga Waller, 1917 15th Avenue South in St. Petersburg. So, what I want to do is just remind the city council of the crime that was committed against black people when 86 acres were taken from black people, 300 businesses, 800 families removed from that area. That happened to black people. That stadium was built on a black community, and now nobody's even discussing the impact on black people that this whole thing is going to take. It's about bonds and all that, and I say it's about reparations to black people. That's 86 acres that could be used as reparations to the black community, and the conditions of the black community can be transformed through development and using a reparations development agency that would actually decide what would go there. But we don't need more stadiums. The Tampa Bay Rays don't even want to be here. And I agree with them. I don't want them here either. And I think the best thing to do is not to spend 1 cent on a stadium or anything like that, but now start talking about reparations to the black community. Thank you.
Ash Alonso. I reside at 2434 10th Avenue North, and I have lived in Tampa Bay for a quarter of a century. St. Petersburg gets hit by back-to-back hurricanes. FEMA and insurance companies deny our claims, and all the city does to support small businesses and homeowners is ask for donations. Meanwhile, a billion-dollar company with no allegiance to St. Pete gets millions to fix its private stadium. Federally and locally, our government has failed us. To paraphrase these buckets, with our hard-earned tax dollars, it is City Council and Mayor Welch's job to balance them in the best interests of our most vulnerable community members, not the wealthiest out-of-towners. Personally, if I was worth $800 million, I could not imagine holding public land ransom and demanding a handout from a city that will be recovering for years to come. But that's just good business, right? In 2023, Stu Sternberg said, Major League Baseball is here to stay. Now the Rays refuse to even confirm they'll build the new stadium. So why would y'all vote to borrow $425 million today? That's like paying for a wedding when the Rays won't even say they want to get married. We've all stayed in relationships longer than we should have. I actually got dumped this year, and I should have seen it coming. It's always obvious in hindsight when someone isn't as committed as you are to moving forward together. My family moved here when I was 4 years old. Growing up, this was just a place old people came to retire and young people could not wait to get out of. But in 2024, St. Pete is ranked as one of the top cities to live in, find a job, and start a business. St. Pete isn't great because of the Rays. The Rays franchise became successful because of our generous investment. But 9 times out of 10, people will choose a familiar hell over an unfamiliar heaven because breakups are scary. But I learned that when someone or some company isn't willing to define the relationship, there is no real relationship. Just because something is good doesn't mean it's the best thing out there. We outgrow people and partnerships. St. Pete is a catch, and we need to start acting like it. In short, don't make our city go broke for a boy who won't even text us back. Thank you, and happy holidays to everyone except Stu Sternberg.
Hello, my name is Andrew Hernandez. I live at 1618 Burlington Avenue North, and I'm against this. Simply saying we shouldn't commit to this until the Rays commit to us, and there's a better allotment of our tax dollars. And I support everything this young man just said earlier. Y'all have a good day. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Chris Steinacher, President and CEO of the St. Petersburg Area Chamber of Commerce at 102nd Avenue North. I'm here in support of the bond issuing. Our board met with the mayor and the Rays in this last week, and while we certainly don't have all the information, we do feel like it is a puzzle that is missing some pieces. We do believe the next piece is what you guys do today. The leadership this city council has shown for over 35 years about baseball will need to be on display today, whereas we are leading what I see as a city administration that understands how to keep business at the table throughout a process of negotiation. I do believe we have to make our commitments so that others will make their commitments. I do believe if our commitments go first, our county commitments and our Rays commitments become clearer for them. Please honor all the work that our city councils have done over the last 35 years and understand that this is one piece of a puzzle that still needs to be defined. We don't all know the answers right now. But as we navigate businesses, we've navigated over 200 businesses that are going through issues throughout our community. No business has the answers right now. It's hard to determine how to rebuild. Our Chamber of Commerce got flooded over 60 days ago, and I'm still not rebuilding yet. This is hard work, people. That takes a lot of patience and care. I do want to remind you, though, we don't want to run businesses out of the community until they say they want to go. I have not heard the Rays say they want to go. I have said the Rays have said, we got to figure this out. And all I want is everybody at the table to say, let's figure this out. I think the way they figure this out is by seeing your commitment first and understand that we are honoring the deals that we have made here, and our city is that way. Our Rays mean a lot to our community, not just for the magic of baseball, but every not-for-profit in our community it receives resources from them. Every employee that's come here that works for our Rays is now wondering what happens next. This is not just about baseball. It is about our economy. We ask you to continue moving our economy forward. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Natalie Stockard. I live at 201 4th Street South. And I'm here to speak against bonds for the Rays. If the Rays and Hines Development truly believe that this development was a financial winner, they would be willing to pay for it themselves. And I believe it's unfair to ask city residents to bear this cost when so few will get any advantages from it. At the same time, I'd like to take a moment to remind the mayor, wherever he is, and the city council of the responses to the community meetings that were held 2 years ago about this gas plant district. I can only speak for the one I was at, but I think you will have heard from others where our decision, what we wanted, was a walkable, affordable, mixed-use neighborhood, not just to let a couple of billionaires play a game. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Mike Swayze, 235 3rd Avenue North. Thank you for your service. I like to start out with that every time because you guys do a lot of work here. I'm in support of this bond sale. I'm representing the Economic Development Corporation. I submitted a letter yesterday, and I'll just read the letter to you. As recovery efforts continue, it is important to honor commitments to our community's continued success. Retaining existing jobs and national visibility created by the Rays is key to our city and our business recruitment efforts. St. Petersburg residents will benefit from thousands of new jobs created by redevelopment of the historic gas plant district. These jobs both in construction and then in the businesses housed in the new neighborhood, along with the investment of more than $6 billion into our community. We ask that the council approve the bond financing for both stadium project and historic gas plant infrastructure project to ensure that these jobs are not yet another casualty of the storms. We hope you will stay committed to retaining the Rays, creating new jobs for decades to come by supporting this once-in-a-generation opportunity for new office space, housing, equity, and opportunity. Thank you.
My name is John Sinibaldi. I'm at 3212 30th Street North. First of all, I want to say that Ms. Hanowitz has it correct. Absolutely no notice for this. If I didn't know Ron Diner, I wouldn't even notice what's going on right now for the bond vote. At the very least, you should postpone it until the rest of the city has a chance to know that it's going on and has a chance to come here and voice their stuff. A couple things really quickly. One is just related. I won't say good, bad, or otherwise. The decision to reduce from $100 million to $25 million the insurance on the stadium that's worth $500 million and you're going to use for 2 or 3 more years was wise or not wise. But whoever was advising you on that should be horsewhipped. Seriously, I spent 30 years in insurance, and that was a horrible, horrible decision that's going to cost the city now one way or the other. Couple other things real quick. Unforecast was a gentleman who did the invocation for the 2 storms. They were unforecast perhaps, but they were not unforeseen, and it's going to get worse in the future. What I want to talk about primarily is what's not getting spent money on right now, which is the decades-long saga of sewer plants that don't function during storms. 2 of them shut down because of surge issues, sewage backed up. This is not something that you have done. Councils before you and councils before that, and mayors going back 4 or 5 mayors ago have kicked the can down the road. But spending $300 million or $400 million for a stadium when we continue to suffer from the infrastructure that's not getting fixed in St. Pete is not the right move either. So I am not for spending that money right now. So again, like somebody said, a couple of billionaire owners, multiple millionaire ball players, and some fairly well-off people who can still afford to go to a game get that opportunity when so much more needs to be done in the city. A couple quick questions for the council. Does anybody here know how many miles of...
You can hear those questions if you go online to stpete.org if you're interested in hearing more of the public comment, but I did want to give you a taste of what the public was saying. That was part of public comment before a vote by St. Pete City Council last week to take out bonds for a new Rays stadium. This has been WMNF's Tuesday Cafe. I'm Sean Canan. Bubba wrote in to say, Tampa Bay is kind of a laughingstock for this controversy. Why can't we get our blank together? I think they'll become the Nashville Rays in a few years, is what Bubba is saying. He also says that public comment about breaking up with the Rays was a good analogy. If you missed any of this show, or if you'd like to share it with a friend, you can find it on WMNF.org. In this time slot tomorrow, Shelley will host Midpoint. Hey, coming up next is Wavemakers, and we have a guest host today, Wayne Garcia. So please join us for that. Stay tuned. Then coming up at noon is Wide Awake America, hosted by Nadine Smith, and she speaks today with journalist and opinion writer Jennifer Schultz about the dangerous rise of disinformation infiltrating government health agencies. Her latest op-ed is Kennedy and his quack bros will infect our health agencies with propaganda. They discuss the erosion of scientific integrity and the challenges facing credible journalism. And then after that, coming up at 1 o'clock is It's the Music. This has been Tuesday Cafe, coming to you live on December 10th, 2024, from the studios of WMNF Tampa, St. Petersburg, Sarasota, Lakeland, Clearwater, Bradenton. Thanks so much for supporting community radio, WMNF Tampa.
live